there's a lot of buzz with like agentic AI and marketing and systems that can make decisions and act with minimal human or marketing input. We know that like Lifesight has been talking about marketing intelligence agents. Do you envision this like near future where an AI agent is autonomously running marketing measurements and optimizations? Like you talked a lot about the unified framework where you're focusing on actions and business decisions. How automated is that going to be in the next couple of years? How are you thinking about that future?
So we are super excited about what the evolution that we see around us in terms of Gen AI and agentic AI and causal AI, right, in all of this. And we recently launched our first version of marketing intelligence agents. We call her Mia, and that's a phase one of our adoption of agentic AI, right? So the way
Mhm.
we see it internally in Lifesight is there are two AI verticals that we work on. One is the measurement AI, right? Everything that is needed to make the entire measurement process more robust, which is to adopt causal AI and some of the more latest things that's coming up in that space. Second part is agentic AI. So the primary purpose of adopting LLM and agents on top of the measurement stack is it would make things easier for the marketer to interact with the models, because for most of them, it's a bit of a learning curve, right? So they now need to get used to some very complicated statistical concepts. So it's not easy for most of them. So if we could create a conversational layer, so you could converse with this data, and thereby you could understand a lot of things. And while we build these conversational layer, we are also making sure that we become very transparent about the reasoning of these models or the agents, right? So when you ask some questions around, do we think we need creative refresh in Facebook campaign ABC, right, or tactic ABC? Uh, When the agent sort of replies with an yes or a no, there has to be proper reasoning, and that reasoning will need some human validation for some time. That's part
Mm.
number one. Second is, even when we generate next best action recommendations or optimization recommendation, at this point, we don't go and automatically change it in your downstream platforms. It waits for a user approval, right? So in near term, I think most of these agentic system will have a human in loop, because the cost of hallucination and wrong reasoning and all is very high, right? So it's very important that the human sort of comes in and approves things. But having said that, the primary use cases, so where an agent becomes better than a rule based system is if your problem statement or if the user flow in itself is ambiguous, that you can't create rules and create a rule based workflow. That's when an agent sort of comes in. But agent's interpretation of this ambiguity might not be very accurate as well. So in the near term, we think there would always be a human in the loop in the process. But long term, we don't know, right? Five years down the line, because we see new protocols emerging. There's MCPs, there's A2A protocol. So the world is, I think, looking at a point in time when agents would talk to each other and all of that. But even
Mhm.
in those days, I think there are a lot of ethical sort of guardrails also would come into picture. So we'll have to wait and watch. So one very um, sort of mentor model that I have is, if you're familiar with this. So before joining here, I was in the banking and financial industry. So I was building digital products for mutual funds and all of this. So I think this was in 2010 when there was this issue of flash crash in the US. I don't know if you're familiar with
Mhm.
this. The
Yeah,
stock
yeah.
market suddenly fell down by, I don't know, 50, 60%. So essentially what happened that day is there was a bug when one of the autonomous trading platforms started selling a particular stock for pennies. And there were
Hmm.
other automated platforms looking at the market, and they all went into panic mode. So these are agents. They were not talking to one another, but they were making inference from a common place, and things went haywire, right? So
Hmm.
that's an agent to agent conversation actually happening even say 15 years back, right? So when
Hmm.
agents starts talking to each other, we'll need a lot of guardrails in place So we'll have to watch and see how that would evolve. So what we currently have is just certain protocols on how agents could talk, right? So MCP is also essentially a protocol how a LLM client could easily interact with API, right? So eventually how those things will evolve, we'll have to wait and watch. But we are super excited on what we see based on the initial traction from Mia,
Hmm.
because a lot of marketers are now able to talk to these complex models in human language. And that I believe is a good start.